ಭೀತಿ ತೊರೆಯುವ ನಾವು ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಬರೆಯುವ ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾವಾಣಿಯ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ
ಖಾಲಿ ಜಾಗ ಭರ್ತಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೊಂದಿಸಿ ಬರೆದು ಲೆಕ್ಕ ಮಾಡಿ
ಚಿತ್ರ ಬರೆದು ಭಾಗವ ಹೆಸರಿಸಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗೂ ಉತ್ತರಿಸಿ
ಪಾಸು ಫೇಲು ಗೆಲುವು ಸೋಲು ಜೀವನ ಎಲ್ಲಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮಿಗಿಲು
ಅಂಕಗಳೆಂದರೆ ಮೇಲಿನ ತೊಗಟೆ ವಿದ್ಯೆ ಅದರ ಒಳಗಿನ ತಿರುಳು ಭೀತಿ ತೊರೆಯುವ ನಾವು ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಬರೆಯುವ ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾವಾಣಿಯ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾವಾಣಿಯ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾವಾಣಿಯ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ
ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾವಾಣಿ.
Hello children, hope you are in the best of health and busy preparing for your SSLC examination. Myself Praveen, I have been into this teaching since 16 years. I have been teaching mathematics in the government schools. Currently I am working as a block resource person in Kolar BRC office. I welcome every one of you to this revision and refresher course for SSLC students on behalf of the government and also the DD Chandana channel. So my subject is mathematics and today I will be dealing with the chapter 9. For the next 40 minutes I will be taking you on a journey on the chapter polynomials. Hope you will definitely enjoy this. Dear children, I hope you have pen and also papers with you. Now let us start revising the chapter so that we can end up with more and more marks in the SSLC examination. So here we begin. The very first important thing that we need to consider before studying any chapter is that what is the role of that chapter in the examination. So let us try to analyze the theme. As you can see here, there are totally 4 chapters: the quadratic equations, arithmetic progressions, polynomials and pair of linear equations, which is totally 26 marks of gradation. It means to say that including all the 4 chapters there will be 26 marks totally which appear for the examination, and there is no hard and fast rule to fix number of questions or number of marks in every chapter. So it is very much mandatory for every one of you to look through or go through all the chapters in a very clear and a very exhaustive manner, right? So algebra, under the algebra theme we have these 4 chapters and the polynomials is one among them. So we shall start the chapter polynomials and let us recall whatever we have studied in the schools. Okay, now to begin with, the entire algebra stands on the 2 basic pillars. Can you recall what are those? Yes, they are the constant and the variable. These 2, as I told you, make the very foundation for algebra. A constant is a value whose value remains constant every time, like the numbers, the pi, the e symbols, etc. And a variable is one which takes different values under different circumstances. You might have done many number of problems in algebra where using x, y or any other variables, and everywhere you might be astonished to see the values of x changing every time. Maybe x is 2 in one problem and x is -3 in another, right? Therefore the word variable for this. So what happens when we unite these 2? So when we take the product of the variable and a constant, like 3 and x when multiplied you get 3x, or -8 and y when you multiply you get the product -8y, which we call it as an algebraic term. Okay. Now when these algebraic terms are grouped together, particularly by positive or a negative sign, as I have displayed here, you can easily see the x plus y and a minus b plus c, these two are examples for algebraic expressions, right. So, based on the number of terms in the algebraic expressions, these algebraic expressions can be classified into varieties. To name a few, I have here a monomial, a binomial and a trinomial, right. So, there are examples for monomial here, x, 9y, these two are the examples of monomial, which indicates mono as only one or single. And next we have the binomial, which indicates bi means 2. Therefore, we have 2x plus 4y and 5m plus 8n. And the third one, I do not think it needs any explanation. Okay. The examples are self-explanatory, right children. Now, what did you study in the 10th standard polynomials chapter? Let us have a bird's eye view of whatever we have studied in the classes. Under the polynomials chapter, we just started with the standard form, then we traversed through the degree of the polynomial, the zeros of the polynomials and the relation between zeros and the coefficients of the polynomials. Do you remember these things? Good. Let us continue. Along with that, we also had two theorems. Of course, we used the applications of these two theorems. Number one, it is the factor theorem. The other one is the remainder theorem. Based on these two theorems, we had many problems in the particular chapter, right. Apart from these two, there were two important polynomials which we had a very great influence, like a quadratic polynomial and with few formulae, and a cubic polynomial which you can see here with these formulae, right children. Let us start digging deep into this chapter by taking the concepts or the points one by one. Let us start with the standard form, right. Can you recall the general form or a standard form of a polynomial? Here it is. Any polynomial p of x can be written as a naught plus a1 x to the power 1, a2 plus a2 x to the power 2 plus a3 x to the power 3 plus so on a n minus 1 x to the power n minus 1 plus a n x to the power n. So, n can be any number for that matter. But the important thing is the coefficients whatever we have listed here, like a naught, a1, a2, so on a n minus 1 and a n, these should belong to the real number set, right. Okay. Let us go for few examples. As you can see, some of the examples on the display, like x to the power 4, as you can see x to the power 4 plus 3x square minus 9. This is an example for a polynomial where the maximum value n value is 4 here. The next one, we have y square plus 6y minus 18. This is another polynomial, and the third one which you can see on the display, right. So, whenever we consider the polynomials, are there any rules for a polynomial to become a polynomial? Okay, let us try to understand this with a few non-examples. Dear children, whenever you study the examples, parallelly you should also list the non-examples. Only then you will be able to compare them and the study will be complete, right. So, let us take the example y to the power of minus 3, as you can see here, y to the power of minus 3 plus 6y square. Okay, let me mark that. Y to the power of minus 3, as you can see, the power is a negative number here, which indicates it is 1 by y to the power 3. When this happens, we cannot label these are examples of polynomial, because we will not be in a position to find the zeros at the later stage, right. Let us move on to the next example. M cube minus 3m square plus m to the power half. Again you can observe that the power of the variable here it is half, okay, and again this cannot be the, as you can see, m to the power of half here. When you have the power half, it cannot have the zeros. Therefore, this polynomial also fails to be a polynomial, right. And the third one, which is evident, again I have written it as 2 divided by x to the power of 7. Here also the maximum power of the variable is x to the power of minus 7. Therefore, it ceases to be an example. Dear children, this can be a very good tricky 1 mark question in your examinations. Therefore, be careful while analyzing the polynomial for example and for the non-example. Clear? Okay, let us continue. Here we will be discussing about the types of polynomials. Observe the display here. There are 3 types which I have already listed: a linear polynomial, a quadratic polynomial, and finally the cubic polynomial. I have also listed the examples for linear, quadratic and cubic polynomials here. Observe the linear polynomial. The examples are like x plus 3 and 9y minus 8. And what can you confirm from this, what can you infer from this is, in the linear examples the maximum power for a variable is going to be 1, and even in the case of 9y minus 8 the maximum power of y is 1. Therefore, we group them under the linear polynomial. And can you just recall what is the general form of linear polynomial from this? Yes, it is ax plus b, where a is the coefficient of x and b is a constant. Similarly, for the quadratic polynomial, 2x square plus 4x plus 8 is an example, and 5m square plus 8m minus 3 is another example. From these 2 examples also we can infer that the maximum power of a variable in a quadratic equation can be 2 and only 2, not more than that. What happens if I raise the power to 3? Then it should be separately categorized as the cubic polynomial, as you can see in these 2 examples, right. Now, coming back to quadratic polynomial, what is the general form or the standard form of a quadratic polynomial? Yes, it is ax square plus bx plus c. One word of caution, dear children, when you get a question like what is the general form of a quadratic polynomial, many students get confused with quadratic polynomial and quadratic equation, and most of the students they end up writing ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0, where they are going to lose the marks. So, when you read a problem, read it carefully, alright. When you read it carefully, you will understand what is to be written and is it a polynomial or an equation. So, anything which contains equal sign will become an equation, and a polynomial will never have an equation, and a polynomial will never have an equal sign. Okay. Therefore, a quadratic polynomial will always be ax square plus bx plus c, that is it, right. So, now let us move on to the cubic polynomial. Can you just recall the standard form? Yes, of course, it is here ax cube plus bx square plus cx plus d, alright. Now, Let me move further, or let me dig deeper into this polynomials. Let us try to understand what are all the qualities that we need to give importance on this, right. The first part is the degree of a polynomial. As I told you in the general form, a n x to the power of n is the last term of the polynomial, and n can be any number. It can be 3, which makes a cubic polynomial, which can be 4, making it a biquadratic polynomial, and it can be 10, 20, whatever as the case may be, right. So, when we have the maximum power of any variable in a polynomial p of x, we term it as degree of the polynomial. Probably we will be able to understand this better when we discuss this with few examples. I have few examples listed here. The first polynomial is x to the power 4 plus 3x square minus 9. When you match the question with the definition which I have already displayed here, and particularly you can see that I have marked 4 here. What could be the answer? Yes, this polynomial is of degree 4, because 4 is the maximum variable of the given variable. The next question along with the answer I have written, just because it is very clear that 3a cube minus 8a square plus 7 is a given polynomial, and 3 is the maximum power, right. Therefore, we call it as third degree polynomial or a polynomial with degree 3. Okay. These are the two examples with polynomials of degree 3 and degree 4. You can also expect the questions like this. Give an example for a polynomial with degree 4, right. You can give this example. So, you may also get a question like, is it necessary for us to use x every time when we write a polynomial? No, not at all necessary. You can use any variable for that matter. Your polynomial can be in terms of m or it can be in terms of y also, but naturally we take x for granted, that is it. Okay. Now, give an example for a polynomial with degree 3. Is it necessary for us to write all the 3 terms? No, not at all. Again, you can simply write 5m cube. So, these are the values of the degree of the polynomial that we have discussed. Now, value of a polynomial. When a polynomial p of x is considered and any real number k, as I have listed here, you can see any real number k, when x is taken and when x is equal to k is substituted in the place of x, you write k, or simply replace k with x, or simply replace x with k. The number we get is called as the value of the polynomial, right. Now, when the polynomial is written, it will be in terms of x, and when x is replaced by a real number, it will nowhere be a polynomial, rather it will be a simple mathematical statement of numbers with plus and minus signs. So, definitely we end up with a number. That number we call it as the value of a polynomial. Okay. To understand this in a better way, let us try to have few examples. As you can see, there are two polynomials listed here. Let us begin with the first one, where we have x to the power 4 plus 3x square minus 9, and I need to find the value of this polynomial when k is equal to 1. When k is equal to 1. So, x to the power 4 plus 3x square minus 9, in the place of x I will be substituting 1, right. So, 1 to the power 4 plus 3 into 1 square minus 9, then 1 plus 3 minus 9, and ultimately I get the answer minus 5. So, what does this minus 5 represent? This minus 5 represents the value of the given polynomial when x is equal to 1. Alright. Now, take the next example, 5m square plus 8m minus 3. Deliberately I have taken the other number, I have taken k is equal to 3 here, which you can see. Now, my duty is to replace x by 3, which I have done it here, right. 5 into 3 square plus 8 into 3 minus 3, right. 5 into 9 plus 8 into 3, and after simplification you get the value 66. Again, 66 is the value of the given polynomial when x is equal to 3. Alright. So, this is the state where the entire polynomial gets reduced to a real number. You might be thinking, what is the significance of all these things? Why do we need to study all these things? You will definitely have the answer at the end of this session. Clear? Okay children, let us continue with few more concepts and ideas. Let us jump to the zeros of a polynomial. This is a very important aspect, and this is the main theme of the entire chapter, right. Now, when p of x is a polynomial in x and k any real number for that matter, and when you substitute the value of k, ultimately you are getting p of k as 0. Wow! This can happen sometimes, not every time, because as I have already discussed, k is a real number and you are replacing x with k everywhere in the polynomial, and ultimately you get a number. There are few cases only where the entire p of k gets reduced to 0, right, and we catch hold of this point. When p of k becomes 0, it is a very important aspect for us, may be auspicious, right. So, then we call it as k as the 0 of the p of x, right. So, to understand this in a better way, let us try to analyze this with an example. Here is a question, find the 0 of 2x plus 3. Okay. Now, what is that we need to do? We need to find k for some k, we need to get it as 0, like p of x is equal to 2x plus 3 as you can see here, right, and p of k is equal to 2k plus 3. Then very important aspect is that 0 is equal to 2k plus 3. In order to find the 0, we need to get, or we need to substitute the entire value of p of k, or we need to reduce p of k to 0, which I have done it here. 0 is equal to 2k plus 3, and simplifying this, k is equal to minus 3 by 2. So, what do you understand by this? When we substitute x is equal to minus 3 by 2 for this particular polynomial, we will be getting p of x as 0. Now, let us try to have another example here. I have taken an example of the form y is equal to ax plus b, right. My idea is to analyze this 0 of the polynomial in a geometric way. What is this geometric way? So, when I say it is a geometric way, of course, it is concerned with lines and angles and also the curved lines. Particularly, I will be dealing with the geometric meaning in a Cartesian plane. Okay. Now, let us begin with one form, that is y is equal to ax plus b, which you can see here, y is equal to 2x plus 3. Here p of x is equal to 2x plus 3, and when I substitute k for x, I get p of k is equal to 2k plus 3, and In order to find the zeros, I equate p of k to 0 and ultimately I get k is equal to minus 3 by 2. This is the 0 of the given polynomial. Now, how do I understand this in a better way? Can this be geometrically represented? Will it have any geometrical significance? Okay. Now, let us try to understand this in a Cartesian plane. In order to understand this in a Cartesian plane, we need to reduce the entire polynomial into chunks or bits or the xy coordinates, we call it as points. That we have done it here. I have taken x is equal to minus 2 and according to the polynomial, when x is equal to minus 2, y bears minus 1 value, and when x is equal to 2, which you can see here, y will become 7. Is it necessary for us to take only minus 2 and 2 for x? No, it is not necessary. You can always have minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3 as the case may be. Now let us try to plot these 2 points minus 2 minus 1 and 2 comma 7 on the Cartesian plane, and this is the result. Just recall, why do we call Ax plus b as a linear form? Because when Ax plus b is substituted to a graph, ultimately we get a line, therefore it is called as linear. Okay. Now consider this line, the point at which this line is crossing the x axis is a crucial thing for us. What you can observe here is minus 3, as you can see, minus 3 by 2 comma 0, minus 3 by 2 comma 0 is a point at which the polynomial line or an equation line is crossing the x axis. Just recall or try to connect the 0 of the polynomial with this point. As you can clearly see, minus 3 by 2 here, you can see minus 3 by 2 is our 0 for this polynomial, and we are getting minus 3 by 2 here also, which ultimately means that the 0 of a polynomial is nothing but the point at which the graph of the polynomial cuts the x axis. Is that clear? Then there may be some questions in your mind, like, do I always end up with a straight line for all the polynomials? The answer is no, because as and when you take more and more degree equations or polynomials, you end up with different types of curves. Let us try to understand this with another example. Here in the second case, I have taken y is equal to ax square plus bx plus c form, which is nothing but the quadratic form. And the particular example in this criteria, I have taken it as x square minus 3x minus 4. And when you equate this to 0 and try to solve this, the zeros will be minus 1 and plus 4, right? Now, it is very important for us to understand how do these minus 1 and plus 4 appear on the graph of this particular equation of the polynomial. Now again, let us try to reduce or break the idea into small chunks, that we call it as the points. Here x is an independent variable and y, which is dependent on x, we call it as a dependent variable. Here x is an independent variable and y is a dependent variable which depends on the value of x. I have taken few values of x and the corresponding values of y are also written here. For example, when you put x is equal to 0, which you can see here, you get y is equal to minus 4, right? And there are few other examples also. Now, our job is to display this. Our job is to plot all these points on the Cartesian plane, right? Now, let us see what happens when we plot this. Previously, when we took the example of the form ax plus b, it was just a straight line. Now, as you can see, this is a quadratic polynomial, and this quadratic polynomial is of the shape u, which we normally call it as a parabola. And you also observe a peculiar thing here, and this parabola is cutting the x axis at two distinct points, right? And those distinct points are nothing but minus 1 and 0, minus 1 comma 0 and 4 comma 0. These are the 2 points at which the curve of the given polynomial cutting the x axis. Therefore, we will have 2 zeros for this polynomial, and these two are 2 distinct points at which the curve is cutting the x axis. Now, you may also think of some other cases where you have a 3-degree polynomial. Just recall, what would be the fate of the 3-degree polynomial? Will it cross the x axis at 3 points? What about 5-degree polynomial? Will the 5-degree polynomial curve cuts the x axis at 5 distinct points? Now, try to find the answer. I have few examples here. Observe the following graphs of the polynomials and say the degree and the zeros. Observe here, this is the first polynomial that we have. This is the first polynomial, and try to observe the point at which the axis and the polynomial are crossing each other. What can you infer from this? Of course, there is only one point at which the curve is cutting the x axis. Therefore, the degree is 1 and also the number of zeros is also 1, right? Now, what about this? Oh, this is a similar case where the parabola has gone upside down. Here also the parabola is cutting the x axis at 2 distinct points. Therefore, the degree or the zeros are 2. Now, what about this? Observe the graph and the important line that we need to consider. There are 3 distinct points at which the curve is cutting the x axis, which is 1, 2 and 3, right? Therefore, the degree or the zero of this polynomial is 3. Now, what about this? Write the answer. Now, cross check it. Is it the same answer that you have written? Bravo. Next. Oh, this is very much similar to the third one, but what is the difference? The difference is that both are of the same degree polynomial, but the coefficients and the constants are different. That is why we get a different curve altogether, right? Now, what about this? Right? Did you write the degree of this polynomial? Now, cross check with this answer. Children, why I have taken all these examples means this is a very important aspect in the examination point of view, because you can always expect a 1 mark question from this diagrams or similar diagrams as the case may be. You may be asked to write the degree of the given polynomial, or you may be asked to write the zeros of the given polynomial, or ultimately you may also be asked to draw a simple graph with 3 degree or 4 degree polynomials. So, in order to cater to all these questions, I think all these 6 examples will help you in an exhaustive way, right? Alright. Now, let us try to have the next point, which is nothing but the relationship between zeros and coefficients of the polynomials. The first one that we consider is the linear polynomial, which is of the standard form ax plus b, and you have only one value, that is only one zero for this, and that zero can be written as minus b by a. When you solve ax plus b is equal to 0, you ultimately end up with x is equal to minus b by a, which is the only 0. But what happens if the case is a quadratic polynomial and a cubic polynomial? Let us try to understand this. This is a quadratic polynomial ax square plus bx plus c, as you can see here, and you also can recall that ax square plus bx plus c will have 2 zeros, alpha and beta. Let it be under consideration, and the sum of the zeros alpha plus beta would be minus b by a, and the product of the zeros alpha beta would be c by a. Alright. Now, what happens if I consider in the case of a cubic polynomial ax cube plus bx square plus cx plus d? As the case is 3 degree polynomial, it is very clearly known that the degree of the polynomial is 3. At the same time, there are 3 zeros for this, and the 3 zeros we can name them as alpha, beta and gamma, which are the first 3 alphabets of the Greek alphabet. Alright. Now, let us try to find the sum of the zeros. The sum of the zeros is alpha plus beta plus gamma, which is minus b by a, and the next is the sum of the products. Here we consider any 2 zeros, we take the product of any 2 zeros and ultimately we add them, right? Alpha beta plus beta gamma plus alpha gamma, when put all together we get it as c by a, and finally the product of the zeros alpha, beta and gamma, we get it as minus d by a. These are the very important formulae which you need to remember, okay? And there are many problems based on this formula also. Now, let us try to have few problems. The first one is like this: x is equal to 1. Here x is equal to 1 is a 0 of f of x, which is x cube minus 2x square plus 4x plus k. Then the value of k is, here x is equal to 1 is one of the zeros they have given, and of course there are 3 zeros for this polynomial, since the degree of this polynomial is 3. And now we need to determine the value of k based on the value x is equal to 1 given. Alright. Now, f of x is given x cube minus 2x square plus 4x plus k. Now, let us try to find the value of f of 1. F of 1 is equal to, in the place of x substitute 1 cube minus 2 into 1 square plus 4 into 1 plus k. Since 1 is the 0 of this polynomial, f of 1 can be taken as 0, right? So, substitute f of 1 is equal to 0, you get 0 is equal to 1 minus 2 plus 4 plus k, and ultimately we end up with the value of k to be minus 3. Alright. Now, when we find the answer minus 3, we will rush up to the answer and we mark A 3 as the answer. This usually happens in the case of MCQs, particularly for children who are writing the examinations, because they will always be under stress of writing the examination. What we need to do here is, we need to be very careful when we write the answer and when we match the answer with the given distractors. Okay children, be careful in answering the MCQs. So, the answer for this particular question is B minus 3. Clear? Now, let us take another example wherein we need to find the zeros of the given polynomial and we need to find the relationship whether it holds good with the given formula or not. In this case, we begin with 6x square minus 3 minus 7x. The very first and the foremost thing that you need to do when you are given a polynomial is to rearrange the terms of the polynomial so that it appears in the standard form. As you can see here, 6x square minus 3 minus 7x, that can be rewritten as 6x square minus 7x minus 3, right. Soon after writing the standard form, you need to find the coefficients of x square, x and the constant and label them as a, b and c as done here, right. This is the basic step. Then how to find the zeros of a quadratic polynomial? The quadratic polynomial is to be considered as a quadratic equation by equating it with 0 and by splitting the middle term, that is minus 7x as the case here, I have splitted it as minus 9x plus 2x, right. There are many other different kinds of factorization. You can follow any judicious method of factorization, any method which is mathematical. Here I have considered it as the splitting the middle term method. Now, after splitting this, you get the polynomial equated, that is equation, as the product of two binomials, and when these two binomials are equated to 0 separately, we get the two values, that is minus 1 by 3 and 3 by 2. So, these are the two zeros of the given polynomial. Now, let us come back to verification, wherein we need to verify whether the given zeros would definitely fit into the formula and ultimately the LHS and the RHS will be equal or not. So, in this case alpha and beta are substituted here. In the same way, B and A are also substituted here and they are simplified, and ultimately both the LHS and RHS 7 by 6 and 7 by 6. Okay. Now, when we take up the product, alpha and beta are substituted here, C and A are also substituted here, and ultimately we are getting it as minus 1 by 2 and minus 1 by 2, which indicates that this holds good the formula. Okay. Now, let us take another example, x square plus 7x plus 10. Now, do we need to write this in the standard form? No, it is not necessary, because the given polynomial as itself is in the standard form. No need to rewrite them. Okay. Now, let us try to split this middle term 7x as 5x and 2x, and ultimately we get x plus 2 into x plus 5, and when equated to 0 we end up with the zeros as x is equal to minus 2 and x is equal to minus 5. These are the two zeros, x is equal to minus 2 and x is equal to minus 5. Now again substituting the values in alpha plus beta is equal to minus b by a, substitute minus 2 and minus 5 for alpha and beta, b is equal to 7 and a is equal to 1, and ultimately we get these two sides LHS and RHS are equal. In the same way, let us do it for the product of zeros also, which you can see alpha beta is equal to c by a, right, and this also we are getting it as 10 is equal to 10, which indicates that the formula is exact and it holds good for any quadratic polynomial as the case may be. Okay. Now let us try to turn the problem upside down. When you are given a polynomial, you can find the zeros. Will the converse be true? Like you are given the sum of the zeros and the product of the zeros, can you find a particular polynomial with these attributes? Now let us try to solve this problem. Find a quadratic polynomial whose sum of the zeros is minus 1 by 4 and the product of zeros is 1. So what is crucial here is we need to understand the question and write down what is given. Sum of the zeros can be taken as alpha plus beta, where alpha and beta are the two zeros of the polynomial, particularly the quadratic polynomial, right, and product of the zeros is given as 1, alpha bits plus beta is equal to 1, and the quadratic polynomial has a standard form like this: x square minus x times alpha plus beta plus alpha beta. Now in the place of alpha plus beta and alpha beta, let us replace minus 1 by 4 and 1 respectively, and let us try to see what happens. Ultimately we get 4x square plus 4x plus 4. So in both the ways you should be ready to conquer the question. Like if you are given the quadratic polynomial, try to find the zeros and find the formula intact, and at the same time if you are given the product of the zeros and the sum of the zeros, you should be able to come back and find the polynomial with particular attributes. Dear children, these problems are of a particular type and they may appear in your question paper for 2 marks. So be careful, write the polynomial in the standard form first, write the values of a, b and c, then find the solution. Okay. All right. Now we shall take up in the next question. Find the remainder and the coefficient when x to the power 4 minus 3x square plus 4x plus 5 is divided by g of x is equal to x square plus 1 minus x. The very first thing that you need to remember in solving this question is to write them in the standard form and also write them in the division pattern. Okay. Now write the dividend, write the divisor both in the standard form and write the area where you actually divide, right. The very first step of this division is, as you can see in the dividend, it is x to the power 4 and the divisor is x square. Now divide the first x to the power 4 by x square, you end up with x square. You need to multiply the divisor with x square, which turns to be x to the power 4 minus x cube plus x square. Then change the sign, plus to minus, minus to plus and plus to minus, and simplify. You get it as x cube minus 4x square, and the 4x is taken from the dividend. right? This is the first step. We need to go for the next step. The procedure is repeated. Again, in the dividend part we have x cube, and in the divisor part we have x square, right? X cube by x square is x to the power 1, right? Plus x to the power 1 or simply x. Multiply x square minus x plus 1 with x. What do you get? You get it as x cube minus x square plus x. Change the sign and cancel the positive and the negative equal values, and ultimately we get this, right? And this is the end of the second step. Now, to move to the third step, again the rules are same. What you need to do is, we have minus 3x square plus 3x plus 5, divide minus 3x square by x square, you end up with minus 3, write minus 3 in the quotient part, and multiply x square minus x plus 1 with minus 3, and you end up with minus 3x square plus 3x minus 3, and when you change the sign and simplify, we get 8. So, what is the question? Just recall the question. You need to find the quotient and the remainder in this case. So, which are the quotient and the remainder? Now, observe another question here. We need to check whether x square minus 3x plus 1 is a factor of x to the power 5 minus 4x square plus 3x plus 1. So, what is that we need to do here? Of course, we need to carry on the division without any hesitation, but the problem is how to decide whether the given terms or given a polynomial is a factor of the another polynomial. So, when we keep on dividing this, which I have explained you in the previous slide, all the steps are to be meticulously done, and ultimately what is got is the remainder. The given polynomial cannot be a factor of the given polynomial again. Therefore, here had we got the remainder as 0, the answer would have been S, but since we have got 29x minus 9 as the remainder, x square minus 3x plus 1 is not a factor of x to the power 5 minus 4x cube plus x square plus 3x plus 1. Alright, this is a very important aspect that you need to know. Is that clear, children? Now, let us try to summarize whatever we have discussed in the short span of some 40 minutes today. The summary of polynomials, the standard form we have discussed, the degree of the polynomial, the zeros of the polynomials, relation between zeros, factor theorem, the remainder theorem, the quadratic polynomial, and the formulae connected with quadratic polynomial, and ultimately the cubic polynomial and the formulae connected with cubic polynomial. Dear children, hope you enjoyed the session on polynomials today, and I also hope that you will definitely have a rigorous practice with this chapter and end up with more and more marks. Thank you. I wish you good luck.
Hello students, welcome to today's science class. I am Shashikumar BS, working as a science teacher, Government High School, Elekathanahalli, Nelamangala Taluk, Bangalore Rural District. Today we will discuss chapter number 4, carbon and its compounds. Carbon is a unique element. It will produce large number of chemical compounds in the nature. So, in this chapter, what you have learnt in the classroom? Covalent bond, electron dot structure, catenation property of carbon, isomerism, hydrocarbons and their classification, functional groups, homologous series, esterification and soaps and detergents. Let us discuss position of carbon in periodic table. Carbon is the very unique element. It will produce large number of carbon compounds in the nature. What makes carbon is a very unique element? Carbon exhibits the properties like tetravalency, catenation, isomerism, etc. So these three properties makes carbon is a unique element in the periodic table. Let us discuss position of carbon in periodic table. The symbol of carbon is C. The atomic number of carbon is 6. Electronic configuration. Carbon exhibits two types of electronic configuration. One is 1s2, 2s2, 2p2. Here the first shell is completely filled. The second shell is half filled because the first shell is K. The maximum capacity of K is 2 electrons. The maximum capacity of L shell is 8 electrons. So that carbon in the second shell half filled. In the excited state, carbon exhibits the electronic configuration has 1s2, 2s1, 2px1, 2py1 and 2pz1. In the periodic table, carbon belongs to the 14th group. It is the first element of 14th group. It belongs to the second period. Carbon is a non-metal. So these are some general information about the carbon. Dear students, let us discuss the valency of carbon atom. See the atomic structure of carbon. Carbon has the atomic number 6. So it shared 6 electrons in 2 shells. K shell has 2 electrons, L shell has 4 electrons. The maximum capacity of K shell is 2 electrons, it is completely filled. The maximum capacity of L shell is 8 electrons. Here carbon shared 4 electrons in the L shell, it is partially filled. This partially filled shell makes carbon as tetravalent element. Let us understand covalent bond in carbon. Carbon is a very unique element. It will produce large number of carbon atoms in the nature. What is covalent bond? Carbon atom sharing its valence electrons with surrounding other carbon atoms and forming a covalent bond. The bond formed by sharing of electrons between the atoms is called covalent bond. Once again I will repeat, what is covalent bond? The bond formed by sharing of electrons between the carbon atoms or any other atoms is called covalent bond. Dear students, let us understand the covalent bond with an example. Here I will take methane is an example. The molecular formula of methane is CH4. See the structure of methane. Carbon is a central atom. It exhibits tetravalency. The 4 valence electrons here. These 4 electrons bonding with 4 hydrogen atom because the valence electron in hydrogen atom is 1. Here 4 hydrogen atom shared their electron with 4 valence electrons of carbon and form a covalent compound. This is an best example for covalent bond formation. Dear students, let us discuss about electron dot structures. How to draw electron dot structure for different molecules. First one, oxygen. Oxygen is a diatomic molecule. 2 oxygen atoms combine together to form oxygen molecule. See the electron dot structure of oxygen atom. One oxygen atom exhibits 6 valence electrons because the atomic number of oxygen is 8. K shell 2 electrons completely filled, then L shell 6 electrons. These 6 electrons are the valence electrons of oxygen. One oxygen atom exhibits 6 valence electrons. Here another oxygen atom, 6 electrons are there. These 2 oxygen atom combine together to form by sharing of electrons, forming a covalent bond and makes oxygen molecule. Dear students, let us know how to draw electron dot structure for oxygen molecule. The atomic number of oxygen is 8. Here K shell have 2 electrons, L shell have 6 electrons. So in L shell maximum capacity is 8 electron. Oxygen shared only 6 electrons in the L shell. Now let us know how to draw electron dot structure for oxygen atom. See the electron dot structure of oxygen atom. There are 6 valence electrons in oxygen atom. one oxygen atom has 6 valence electron and another oxygen atom has 6 valence electrons. Here there are two oxygen atoms. They have shared two pairs of electrons between them. Here two oxygen atoms shared two electrons between them and form a octant. This is the electron dot structure for oxygen molecule. Now I will take another example, ammonia. The molecular formula of ammonia is NH3. N means nitrogen. Nitrogen as the atomic number 7, it exhibits 5 valence electrons. These 5 valence electrons shared its 3 valence electrons with 3 hydrogen atoms and form nitrogen molecule. 2 lone pairs of electrons available in ammonia molecule. Next example, carbon dioxide. Similar way, you have to write the electron dot structure for carbon dioxide like that. Another example, sulfur dioxide. So this is the electron dot structure of sulfur dioxide. In the same way, methane molecule. So the molecular formula of methane is CH4. The electron dot structure of methane is like that. The ethane, the molecular formula of ethane is C2H6. See the electron dot structure of ethane. What is catenation? Carbon forms covalent bond with surrounding other carbon atoms and forms chain structures. This unique property of carbon is called catenation. Once again I will repeat, carbon forms covalent bond with surrounding other carbon atoms and forms chain structures. This unique property of carbon is called as catenation property. There are 3 types of chain structures. A straight chain. See the structure here. The 4 carbon atoms are arranged in linear fashion. Second one is branched chain. Here 3 carbon atoms are attached in a linear way and the 4 carbon atom forms a branch. So this is called branched chain. And the third one is closed ring chain. Here all the 6 carbon atoms are arranged in a ring manner. This is called ring chain structure or closed chain structures. Let us discuss isomerism. The carbon compounds having identical molecular formula and different structures are called isomers and the phenomenon is called as isomerism. Let us understand isomerism with an example. I will take normal butane and isobutane. See the molecular formula of normal butane and isobutane. Both have the molecular formula C4H10. See the structures. The normal butane exhibits a linear chain or straight chain structure and isobutane exhibits branched chain structures. See here, there are 4 carbon atoms in both the molecules. In normal butane, the 4 carbon atoms arranged in a straight chain. Here, isobutane exhibits a branched chain. Out of 4 carbon atoms, 3 carbon atoms are in linear structure. The 4 carbon atom attached to the second carbon atom and makes branch. Let us recall the unique properties of carbon. First one is tetravalency. The second one is the catenation and the third one is isomerism. These 3 properties makes carbon is a unique element and this carbon produces large number of chemical compounds in the nature. The compounds which are formed only by hydrogen and carbon are called hydrocarbons. The simplest hydrocarbon is methane. Why methane is simplest hydrocarbon? See the molecular formula of methane. It has the molecular formula CH4. It has only 1 carbon atom. The simplicity of hydrocarbons is depending on the number of carbon atoms present in the molecule. In methane molecule, there is only 1 carbon atom. So this makes methane is a simple hydrocarbon. Let us discuss classification of hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbons are classified based on the number of covalent bonds present between the 2 carbon atoms in the structure. First one, alkane. Alkane has the general formula CnH2 n plus 2. See the bond between the 2 carbon atoms. Here only 1 covalent bond is present. So these are called as alkanes. Alkene exhibit the general formula CnH2n. Here there are 2 covalent bonds between the carbon atoms. And the third one is alkyne. Alkyne has the general formula CnH2n minus 2. Here there are 3 covalent bonds between the 2 carbon atoms. This table shows the example for alkanes. Methane 1 carbon atom, ethane 2 carbon atom, prop 3, bute 4, pent 5, hex 6 carbon atom. Methane CH4, ethane C2H6, propane C3H6, butane C4H10, pentane C5H12, hexane C6H14. See the structures of these hydrocarbons. Methane, one carbon atom, shared their valence electrons with 4 hydrogen atoms. Here ethane, propane, butane, pentane and hexane. See the structures, all the carbon atoms bonding together with only single bond. Let us know the example for alkenes. So, these are the example for alkenes. So, ethene, propene, butene, pentene, hexene. By using general formula of alkenes, you can write the molecular formula and the structures of alkanes. In the similar way, example for alkynes, the general formula of alkynes is CnH2n-2. By using that formula, you can write molecular formula and structural formula of alkynes. Dear students, let us discuss cyclic alkanes. In addition to straight chain and branched chains, some carbon compounds exhibit ring structures are called cyclic alkanes. This is an example for ring structure. Let us know the example for cyclic alkanes. Cyclopropane C3H6, cyclobutane C4H8, cyclopentane C5H10, cyclohexane C6H12. Dear students, let us discuss saturated hydrocarbons. What are saturated hydrocarbons? See the examples: methane, ethane, propane, isobutane and cyclohexane. The valencies of all the carbon atoms in a compound is fulfilled by only single bonds are called saturated hydrocarbons. Example for saturated hydrocarbons are alkanes and cyclic alkanes. Dear students, let us discuss unsaturated hydrocarbons. What are unsaturated hydrocarbons? Let us see the examples for unsaturated hydrocarbons. Ethene, it exhibits a double bond between the 2 carbon atoms. Ethine, it exhibits a triple bond between the 2 carbon atoms. Benzene, it exhibits single bond and double bond alternatively. So, these are the examples for unsaturated hydrocarbons. See, the valencies of carbon atoms in a compound is fulfilled by double or triple bond along with single bonds are called unsaturated hydrocarbons. Examples for unsaturated hydrocarbons are alkenes, alkynes and benzene. Dear students, let us discuss with functional groups. What are functional groups? Functional groups are those groups they provide hydrocarbons to special property. So, carbon is a very friendly element. It can make friendship easily with hydrogen atom and also make friendship with other atoms like chlorine, bromine, OH, COOH and other molecular groups and provide special properties to the hydrocarbons. In hydrogen chain, hydrogen atom or hydrogen atoms replaced by other atom or molecules and they are responsible for special properties of hydrocarbon compounds. These atoms or atom groups are called functional groups. Let us discuss some functional groups. Cl means chloro, Br means bromo, OH means alcohol functional group, CHO means aldehyde functional group, C double bond O means ketone, COOH means carboxylic acid. Let us see the table. First column has heteroatom like chlorine, bromine or oxygen. Second column class of compounds like halogens, alcohol, aldehyde, ketone, carboxylic acids and the third column shows formula of functional group. If it is chlorine, chloro, Br, bromo, these are replaced by hydrogen atoms. OH means alcohol, CHO means aldehyde, C double bond O means ketone, COOH means carboxylic acid. These are some examples for functional groups. Here I will take propane as the basic molecule. Here one hydrogen atom of propane is replaced by chlorine, here bromine, here OH, here CHO. If it is replaced by chlorine, it is called as chloropropane. The hydrogen atom replaced by bromine, it is called as bromopropane. If it is replaced by alcohol group, it is called as propanol. If it is aldehyde group, it is propanol. See the other examples. Hydrogen atom is replaced by ketone group. While writing the structure of ketone group, we have to attach the ketone group between the 2 carbon atoms. Then only we will fulfill the valency of carbon atoms. Dear students, let us discuss homologous series. What are homologous series? A homologous series is a group of carbon compounds having similar structures, similar chemical properties and whose successive members differ by a CH2 groups. Dear students, let us discuss homologo series with an example. Here I will take an alcohol series. Here propanol, ethanol, methanol and butanol are there. See the differences between two successive alcohol groups. Between methanol and ethanol, one CH2 group, between ethanol and propanol, one CH2 group, between propanol and butanol, one CH2 group. These are the example for alcohol series of homologous compounds. Dear students, let us discuss chemical properties of carbon compounds. First one, combustion. What is combustion? Combustion is a type of chemical reaction when carbon on heating burns to produce heat and light as energy. So, combustion is a oxidation reaction. Here carbon on heating burns to produce heat and light as a energy. Not every time heat and light are the products of combustion. Sometimes combustion produces some new compounds. Dear students, let us know the types of combustion. See the picture. Here the bottom of the cooking vessels become black. The air is available sufficient amount, the fuel burns completely, then it is called complete combustion. If the availability of air is not sufficient, it is called as incomplete combustion. So, this black layer is because of incomplete combustion of fuel. Saturated hydrocarbons will generally give you a clean flame, while unsaturated carbon compounds will give you a yellow flame with lots of black smoke. The bottom of the cooking vessels become black. Dear students, let us discuss another type of oxidation reaction. See here ethanol undergo oxidation, it produces ethanoic acid. In presence of alkaline KMnO4 or acidified potassium dichromate, ethanol produces ethanoic acid. What is addition reaction? Unsaturated hydrocarbons undergo addition reaction with hydrogen in presence of nickel or palladium as a catalyst to form saturated hydrocarbons. Here ethene reacts with hydrogen in presence of nickel or palladium as a catalyst produces ethane. This addition reaction is also called as hydrogenation. Unsaturated oils undergo addition reaction produces saturated fats. Commercially, hydrogenation of oils are very useful. In hydrogenation of oils, unsaturated oils are converted into saturated fats. Saturated fats are solid in nature. If the fats are in solid state, we can transport very easily, and also we can store long period. Students, let us discuss substitution reaction. What are substitution reactions? Saturated hydrocarbons undergo substitution reaction with halogens to form substitution products. Here methane undergo substitution reaction, it produces chloromethane. So, this type of reaction is called as substitution reaction. Dear students, let us discuss some important carbon compounds. Ethanol. Ethanol is also called as alcohol, ethyl alcohol. Its molecular formula C2H5OH or CH3CH2OH. Ethanol is a colorless liquid with a pleasant smell. It is completely soluble in any amount of water. Ethanol reacts with sodium to form sodium ethoxide and hydrogen. Dear students, examination point of view, this reaction is very important. Please write and practice thoroughly. When ethanol reacts with sodium, it produces sodium ethoxide and hydrogen. This reaction shows ethanol has acidic property. Dear students, let us understand some physical properties of ethanol. Dear students, see the nature of ethanol. It is a colorless liquid at a room temperature. It is highly volatile compound. It has a sweet smell. Ethanol is used as a very good fuel. It is highly combustible substance. Dear students, let us understand some chemical properties of ethanol. I have taken ethanol here and sodium metal. Sodium reacts with ethanol, it produces sodium ethoxide and hydrogen gas. Let us see practically. A few drops of ethanol is taken in a test tube. Now I am adding a small piece of sodium metal into the test tube. See the chemical reaction taking place. Listen the noise here. Some cracking noise you are listening. See the gas liberating here. So, ethanol reacts with sodium metal, it produces sodium ethoxide and liberates hydrogen gas. The uses of ethanol. Ethanol is used for making alcoholic drinks. It is used as a solvent in many chemical reactions. It is used to making medicines like tincture, iodine, cough syrups, tonics, etc. Let us discuss some important properties of ethanoic acid. Ethanoic acid is also called as acetic acid or vinegar. Its molecular formula is CH3COOH. What are the properties? Ethanoic acid is a colorless liquid with a pungent smell and sour taste. It is soluble in water. A solution of 5% to 8% ethanoic acid in water is called as vinegar. The commercial name of ethanoic acid is called vinegar. Dear students, let us understand some physical properties of ethanoic acid. Ethanoic acid is also called as acetic acid. Commercially it is called as vinegar. Ethanoic acid is colorless liquid at room temperature. Let us test acidic property of ethanoic acid. Yes, student, see here, it turns blue litmus to red litmus. Let us know the pH of ethanoic acid. The color of pH paper is yellow. What is the pH of ethanoic acid? See the color, it is between 3 to 4. It shows it is a weak acid. Dear students, let us discuss esterification reaction. What is esterification reaction? Esterification is a type of chemical reaction in which carboxylic acids reacts with alcohols, produces esters. Here ethanoic acid reacts with ethanol to form the ester ethyl ethanoate in presence of concentrated sulfuric acid. Let us see the chemical reaction. Here CH3COOH plus C2H5OH, it produces CH3COO C2H5. This is called ethyl ethanoate. Once again repeat. See the chemical reaction. Acetic acid reacts with ethyl alcohol, produces ethyl ethanoate in presence of concentrated sulfuric acid. This reaction is very important. The reaction between carboxylic acid and alcohol to form an ester is called esterification. Dear students, let us understand esterification reaction. Esterification reaction is a type of chemical reaction in which carboxylic acids reacts with ethanol, it produces esters. For this reaction, I have taken ethanol and vinegar. Vinegar is also called as ethanoic acid or acetic acid. Few drops of ethanol is in a test tube. Few drops of ethanoic acid is added to ethanol. This reaction is called as esterification reaction. Dear students, let us do esterification reaction. For this reaction, I have taken ethanol, vinegar and concentrated sulfuric acid. Few drops of ethanol is taken in a test tube. For this ethanol, now I am going to add few drops of ethanoic acid. For this reaction, concentrated sulfuric acid is used as a catalyst. Here, sulfuric acid acts as a dehydrating agent. Let us heat this mixture. Students, see here, ester is formed. How esters are formed? Carboxylic acids reacts with alcohols, forms esters. Here I have taken ethanol and ethanoic acid. These two chemicals reacts with each other and produce ethyl ethanoate in presence of concentrated sulfuric acid on heating. Dear students, let us understand some chemical reactions of ethanoic acid. Ethanoic acid reacts with carbonates and hydrogen carbonates. It produces salt, carbon dioxide and water. Let us do practically. Now I am taking few drops of vinegar or ethanoic acid in a test tube. For this, add a little amount of sodium hydrogen carbonate. See students, see the chemical reaction taking place here. See, carbon dioxide gas is liberating. Pass it through lime water, that lime water turns milky. That milky color indicates carbon dioxide is released in the chemical reaction. Dear students, let us discuss saponification. What is saponification? The process of preparation of soap is called as saponification. What is the chemical process behind in this? See, when an ester reacts with sodium hydroxide solution, the sodium salt of the carboxylic acid and the parent alcohol are formed. This reaction is called as saponification. Let us discuss soaps. What are soap? Soaps are the sodium or potassium salts of long chain fatty acids. I will repeat once again. Soaps are the sodium or potassium salts of long chain fatty acids. See some of the example for soaps. The example for soaps are sodium stearate, sodium oleate, sodium palmitate. These are the chemical names of soap. Dear students, let us discuss a structure of soap molecule. A soap molecule has two parts, a long hydrocarbon part which is hydrophobic in nature and insoluble in water, but it is soluble in oil or grease. A short ionic part which is hydrophilic in nature, it is completely soluble in water, but it is insoluble in oil and grease. See the structure. The spherical structure is called ionic part, it is soluble in water. The tail part is called hydrocarbon part, it is hydrophobic in nature. Dear students, let us discuss cleansing action of soap. How soaps are cleanse the cloth. When soap is dissolved in water, it forms spherical structures called micelles. In each micelle, the soap molecules are arranged radially such that the hydrocarbon part is towards the center and the ionic part is towards the outside. The hydrocarbon part dissolves the dirt like oil and grease and forms an emulsion at the center of the micelles, so which can be washed away by water. Let us see the structure of micelles. So, this is the structure of micelles. Here micelles are attached to the oil drop. This tail part are called hydrophobic part, that is hydrocarbon part. Then these heads are called ionic part, these are hydrophilic in nature. How micelles are cleanse the cloth? See, when we dissolve the soaps in the water, it produces special structures called micelles. These micelles attach to the dirt and cleanse the clothes. Let us discuss detergents. What are detergents? Detergents are the soapless soaps. Once again repeat, soapless soaps are called detergents. Detergents are the long chain sodium salts of sulfonic acids. See, these are the some of the examples for detergents available in the shops. Let us discuss differences between soaps and detergents. Some of the differences I have listed here. Soaps are sodium salts of fatty acids, detergents are sodium salts of sulfonic acids. Soaps cleans well in soft water, but do not clean well in hard water, but detergents clean well with both hard water as well as in soft water. Soaps do not clean as well as detergents, but detergents cleans better than soaps. Soaps are biodegradable and do not cause pollution, but some detergents are non-biodegradable and cause soil and water pollution. Dear students, let us know the probable questions in this chapter. Name the unique properties of carbon, explain the covalent bond in methane, then electron dot structures of some molecules like ammonia, sulfur dioxide, methane, carbon dioxide, oxygen, etc. Explain the covalent bond formation in hydrogen, what is isomerism, write the possible isomers of pentane, write the homologous series of molecular formula C2H5COOH. Then what happens when methane and chlorine mixture is exposed to sunlight, what is the reaction taking place, write the balanced chemical equation of alcohol reacts with sodium, what does this reaction infer, what is esterification, what are the uses of esters, alcohol is not used as a soap or detergent, why, briefly explain the cleansing action of soap, then practice the naming of functional groups with carbon compounds. Dear students, today we are discussed important learning points in the chapter carbon and its compounds. Thank you.
ಭೀತಿ ತೊರೆಯುವ ನಾವು ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಬರೆಯುವ ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾವಾಣಿಯ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ
ಖಾಲಿ ಜಾಗ ಭರ್ತಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೊಂದಿಸಿ ಬರೆದು ಲೆಕ್ಕ ಮಾಡಿ
ಚಿತ್ರ ಬರೆದು ಭಾಗವ ಹೆಸರಿಸಿ ಅಂಕಗಳೆಂದರೆ ಮೇಲಿನ ತೊಗಟೆ, ವಿದ್ಯೆ ಅದರ ಒಳಗಿನ ತಿರುಳು. ಭೀತಿ ತೊರೆಯುವ ನಾವು ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಬರೆಯುವ, ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾವಾಣಿಯ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ, ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾವಾಣಿಯ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ, ಪರೀಕ್ಷಾವಾಣಿಯ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ.